A lot of people make claims about Kizomba. They affect the dance and affect our relationships in the community, which has sometimes been described as a war of insults and shaming attempts. I have collected all the oldest videos that I could find and will use them to discuss some of the controversial claims. Along with many clips from the video history, I will discuss some of the oral history. What you are watching is the oldest video that I have found, filmed in 2005. This is Iris de Brito from Angola.
Most of you know me as a salsa dancer, 8 years old. But before I even learned how to dance salsa when I came to this country, I was dancing what we're going to show you tonight. It's called Kizomba. It's from Angola, which is where I'm originally from. I've never done a show with it, so the music that we use is called zouk. It's from French Caribbean. And it's a mix of a lot of different things that have been activities. My grandmother used to do it, and it's only original in Angola. There's nowhere in the world that we dance this way.
The video was filmed in 2005, published in 2006. It was titled When Kizomba Hits the UK. At this point, she describes Kizomba as only being in Angola. Another video from 2006 describes Kizomba as existing in Angola and other Portuguese-speaking countries. Oliver Ross went to Lisbon in Africa at the end of 2004, brought her back to Spain and taught Sarah Lopez. So it seems like this time frame does correlate to the very beginnings of Kizomba coming out of Africa. As we proceed through the video evidence, I will mainly focus on Angola and discussing questions such as, is there or was there one true version of Kizomba? Is Kizomba a dance that has embraced creativity and diversity, or is Kizomba a dance that has rejected creativity and diversity for the sake of static tradition? The first question I will discuss through a series of the early videos will be, is Kizomba sexy? Or can it be a sexy dance? The first clips are from an Angolan Kizomba song that was published in 2008. As we proceed, I think that you will be able to see that there had been a sexy version of Kizomba existing in Angola, along with other versions of Kizomba dating back to the earliest video evidence that we have. This is a clip from a Kizomba social dance dating to 2008. This video is of the winners of the 2008 Africa Dankar International Kizomba Championship. After it, I am going to play an African news broadcast that is much more recent on the topic of Angolans seeking to preserve their dance style. I want you to watch for the distinction that is made between sensuality and sexiness. The video itself gives several examples of what I would call sexy, but the man being interviewed says it is sensual rather than sexy. This is an issue of words rather than content. After the news broadcast, I will only give one more example directly on this topic in order to further demonstrate that the Angolan roots of Kizomba had sensual versions along with other versions of Kizomba.
These young Angolians come here to learn how to dance. They are practicing Kizomba, one of Angola's traditional dances.
The difference between Kizomba and Semba is the rhythm and the melody. With the Semba, the melody is more prominent and the beat is more marked. With the Kizomba, the melody is slower.
The couple's dance has a slow, romantic and sensuous rhythm. It was conceived around 30 years ago. The dance has since spread rapidly across Angola and as far afield as Johannesburg and New York.
Our world needs affection. Here, we dance Kizomba and our bodies get close to each other. In Europe and elsewhere, they are missing out on that. When they find out that this dance is from Africa, where people embrace themselves even if they do not know each other, it makes them feel warm. And that is why it works everywhere. Kizomba is sensuality. It is African magic.
Então, Kizomba associou-se bocado a esta sensualidade.
An initiative by a group called Kizomba in the Street Project was formed in 2012 in a bid to promote the dance and defend it from outside influences. Every Sunday, Luanda's seafront is transformed into a giant dance floor, free of charge and open to all. Organizers here hope that Kizomba's booming popularity doesn't lead to it losing its essence.
Unfortunately, people are retaining only certain aspects of Kizomba, but to us, it is our culture. People are trying to make Kizomba something sexy, something erotic. It is ironic because for us, it's something very serious. It is our culture and our means of self-expression.
The term Kizomba now takes in various musical styles with modern influences like R&B. But if the purists don't always agree on the language used to describe their dance or its origin, they can agree on one thing: it's always time to party. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
This video was published in 2008, and the description says the Angolan dance group Mbaka dances at the Kizomba party. Some confusion seems to have occurred because there has been some evolution of the meaning of words and multiple meanings. For example, before Kizomba referred to a particular dance, it was what Angolans called a party. It was a party, then it was a musical style, then it was a dance. But even in some of the videos from 2005 to 2010, we can see that they were still sometimes using the word to merely refer to a party. And at these parties, people would dance samba and kuduro along with kizomba, using the word kizomba in that case to refer to it as a dance. Another word is the word terexina, which in this case was translated as an Angolan song. I cannot be certain if in this case the word Kizomba referred to a party or a dance, referring to the header, and I don't know if terexina referred to an Angolan song or to this style of dance, but whatever the case, they were dancing this at a Kizomba party. As time has gone on, terexina has come to refer to this particular style of dancing where there's very little actual movement. People are almost staying in one spot. And that's completely fine. My only point is that many of the videos give examples of Kizomba being a very sensual dance right from Angola, and that there is or has been some confusion simply because of the meaning of words. Meanings of words change, styles of music, styles of dance, they all change. For example, some have said that the earliest known couples dance, historically speaking, was the creation of the waltz. And the waltz came to Africa through colonization. People made various versions of that, evolved it. Samba is descended from that, Pasadena, Zouk, other dances, so Kizomba also would be descended from waltz. As we continue, I want to show just a few similarities which somewhat demonstrate that that does seem to be the case, that Kizomba, like the other dances, has descended from the waltz. What I want to say at this moment, though, is that the creation of the waltz was considered to be very scandalous, and it was considered to be very sexual, simply because of how people perceived it. But of course, those perceptions have changed over time.
And it wasn't just the furniture that was informal. George was shaking up behaviour too. In 1816, a scandalous new dance was seen at court for the first time. The waltz. Waltzing? Scandalous? How could this be? Well, before the Regency, people danced in big groups, only occasionally touching each other. The waltz was a very different matter, as the dance historian Robin Beanie shows me.
Well, this is quite a nice and romantic movement too.
It is, but it's not as good as waltzing.
But it's not as good as waltzing, and it's only for a few seconds.
Yes.
In the waltz, when I take you, I have you.
For the whole dance.
For the whole dance, just you.
When this German waltz arrived, it broke all social rules.
And it's the arms that go round, rather than that.
Don't be fooled by the plinky-plonky music. This is dirty dancing.
And we've got this wonderful close proximity.
This is one of the reasons that people thought the waltz was a bit iffy.
Well, just think of the
Dodgy.
things, the arrangements that I could be whispering to you.
Well, you could be telling me all sorts of things, but unfortunately there's a camera just 6 inches
Isn't
away.
there, so?
I
There's a
advise
limit.
you not to tell me now. For polite society, this was the Regency version of a swingers' party. The cartoonist Cruikshank made this print in 1816. He called it waltzing, or a peep into the royal brothel. The Times called the waltz an indecent foreign dance and drew attention to its voluptuous intertwining of the limbs. Led by the Regent's cause, though, the waltz's close embrace was gaining acceptance, and such scandalous behaviour even began to penetrate the peaceful country homes of the aristocracy.
For just a moment, I will jump forward to 2010. The 2010 Kizomba Championships in Angola showed what seems to have become the most common style in Angola, at least from what I have seen.
Hoje eu vou levar até si todo o desenrolar do segundo Campeonato Nacional de Kizomba. Fique por aí.
Part of what I have discovered is a significant amount of variation and creativity. The next video I will show you is from 2006. This is the earliest example I have found of a Kizomba lesson. This lesson demonstrates a 3-step version, which I have seen a few examples of. Part of their beginning lesson was this. 1, 2, hip shift, 1, 2, hip shift, 1, 2, hip shift. This seemed to be the version that Iris de Brito taught in the UK as well. And I found another example dating to 2013 to show that at least some people were still teaching that version of it years later.
3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2.
In religion, we find many examples of people saying their religion is the only true religion and that their way is the only way that is the right way. And we find that, of course, in the dance community as well. Also in 2013, we have the Kizomba Love Academy posting a video called Kizomba Do's and Don'ts. It became a fairly well-known video. Inside it, basically, he implies that the 3-step is wrong, period. He doesn't merely say it's another variation, and he's promoting his variation. He goes out of his way to say this is wrong, this is a bad thing to do. Another interesting point to note with regards to this do's and don'ts video is he gives a bad example of it. He dances it off time. This seems to be done in order to make it look bad and in order to shame those who would embrace that particular style of Kizomba. Here's another example from the Kizomba Love Academy of something we should not do. Now here is a video of an Angolan dancing and teaching people to dance that very same 3-step pattern. It is interesting because of the variation and because it should lead us to ask, why do people like Jose from Kizomba Love, why would people like him seek to limit others to his own preferences? I think it's completely fine that he teaches whatever style that he likes, but why does he feel compelled to try to limit what other people teach or try to shame them by implying that these are bad things to do? I personally think his site should have been called the KizombaDictator.com rather than KizombaLove.com. That simply doesn't make any sense. And this is Albert and Sarah Lopez. I want to discuss the idea of if the spirit of Kizomba is one of innovation and creativity, or is it one that resists change in favor of traditions? Edward Payne and his band is often given the most credit for creating the style of music known as Kizomba. In this interview, he notes that creating Kizomba was done by forward-thinking people, despite opposition and serious criticism from those who wanted to keep the status quo.
O mentor da Kizomba?
Eu não posso assumir essa responsabilidade, sobretudo porque é processo que não se fez com uma só pessoa. É processo que se fez com o contributo de várias pessoas. Poderei ter aberto os olhos ou ter feito algo que serviu de despertar para muitos outros, porque sou do tempo em que quando se mostrava outras influências musicais ou culturais até dentro da nossa música, isto era alvo de críticas severas. Obviamente que, fazendo parte de um grupo de pessoas que querem ir para frente, querem descobrir novos patamares, talvez tenha sido a pessoa que mais se destacou. Agora, mentor fomos todos.
Como é que surgiu
I want to give one personal example. I went to a local class and the instructor taught walking with some upper body, contra body movement in order to add some styling. At another local class, the instructor said, "Don't do that." I said, "I like to." She said, "You don't have to," and I ignored it because I've been trying to experiment with styling. I came back to another class and she again in front of the class said, "Don't do the contra body movement." She said, "It isn't Kizomba." I said, "It's urban Kizomba," and just left it at that. But we are now watching one of the most popular Kizomba videos ever posted. This one has been posted multiple times. This one has 15 million hits, and man leading Sarah Lopez adds some upper body, contra body movement when going directly forwards and directly backwards. His contra body movement is much more dramatic than what I was doing. Now this is a clip of an Angolan who has added some contra upper body movement when he's going backwards. It definitely isn't common, but it's something that other people have done before. Even if it was unique, I think it should be considered fine just for the sake of creativity. Personally, I think stifling creativity and innovation should be called not Kizomba. I could give many more examples. What I've found is interesting, but what I haven't found is also interesting. I could do a whole video on Eddie Bence. He started teaching in 2010 and speaks in a way that seems to imply that his form of Kizomba is the only true form of Kizomba, and he is faithfully handing it down to his students. However, watching all of these early videos, his version appears to be merely one other variation. It is also a variation that is hardly represented at all in the earlier videos. I will link a playlist that has all the sources I've used, as well as many other sources that I've not referenced merely for the sake of time. Most of these videos date from 2005 to 2010. Closing out this video, I'll play some clips side by side. On the top left, we have Iris de Brito from Angola dancing Kizomba in 2005. On the top right, we have clips from the 2010 Kizomba competition in Angola. In the bottom right, we have Eddie Vence teaching his true version of Kizomba. In the bottom left is Billy from Kizomba Harmony, and I want to use him to illustrate further a few points. He thinks that we should not insult each other, but considers that many are doing a mutation of Kizomba. He wrote, often a YouTube search for Kizomba will result in a long list of videos of dancing that looks nothing like Kizomba to those for whom this dance is a part of their culture. Often the movement in these videos is either flat out wrong or overly sexualized. That sounds somewhat hypocritical from someone who says that we shouldn't insult each other. He also misrepresents the dance because, as we have seen, Angolans have done sexy versions as well. And furthermore, the very statement is very subjective. People in the past thought waltz was scandalous, overly sexual, and should not be done. For a time, the British outlawed all forms of public dancing because they linked it to human trafficking and prostitution. Even only so far back as 1956, when Elvis performed, there was a lot of outrage. They called it animalism and vulgarity because of how much he moved his hips. He also thinks that you have to learn the past versions before you can learn any of the current versions properly. There are three problems with this. First of all, he himself has not done this, so it is bizarre that he would say that. He does not do demos that look like Kizomba from the 2010 competition in Angola. He does not do demos or teach people to dance like Iris from 2005. He does not do demos and teach people to dance like Dombaka Group from 2006. He does not dance and teach people the three-step version. Therefore, his saying that people have to learn the past versions in order to learn the current versions properly is simply, just doesn't make sense. The second problem is that you could just as well say that people have to learn how to do waltz in order to learn how to do Semba properly, then learn the past versions of Kizomba, then learn what he considers to be the approved new versions. The third problem is that a lot of people have been able to learn new versions that look great without having to learn past versions. Therefore, this is an unnecessary burden to put on people and to try to obligate people to take his lessons and classes in his limited amount of old versions. He might not think they look great, the new versions, but that is very subjective. Some people, for example, like the waltz and could just as well say that his version and all versions of Kizomba are mutations, using the same logic. All of the history of music, religion, and dance involves people changing and people trying to keep the status quo. Here's a quote about the evolution of waltz. Before that time, all court dances were rigid, stately, solemn, procession-based, very tightly controlled, with complicated moves and timings. Waltz changed that with the introduction of free-form dance with close position of dances, which immediately sparked revolt and scandals from traditional lovers of old ballroom dance. Every style of dance, every change comes in the midst of controversy because there will always be people who want to try to keep their own version as the version that they consider everyone should be obligated to follow. We have seen this as well with the introduction of Kizomba from the interview with Edward Palm, which I played earlier. In conclusion, I would say people have a choice to embrace diversity and be inclusive or reject diversity and be exclusive. Some want to set themselves up as some kind of papal authority and are trying to make the dance conformity in some kind of cult, but others will resist that. On the dance floor, I like the idea of a place where people are free to dance various styles of Kizomba, even Zouk. I think it would be great if Argentine tango was done alongside urban Kiz. There are a few videos like that, like Enrique's. He did a song where there are many different styles of dance, Kizomba, salsa, Zouk, tango, and many others, all side by side. I think it's great if people are dancing Eddie Vance style, or Billy's from Kizomba Harmony. That is all great. My problem is when those people try to say that other people are obligated to learn and dance their styles for the sake of honoring tradition and history. I would simply say we have no such obligation. Music, on the other hand, is a different issue. In any city, you have many different radio stations, old, new, pop, rock, classical, country, oldies. You can dance multiple styles to the same song, but you can't play multiple songs at the same time. You could DJ all old songs, all new songs, a mix of both, multiple styles, but usually our committees are too small to have the equivalent of multiple radio stations. I myself focus on the most popular songs that I can find. Someone could decide to focus on the least popular songs if they wish. But the reality is few will be interested in that. I still have friends from the 80s that are playing metal, but they rarely get to play anywhere in public. But they're free to decide to focus on those things if they want. You just need to decide where you want to focus your energy.